Okay, here we are. Here
And
we are, and here we are, and where
here
are we
we are.
going?
We are on this journey together.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're going. We're taking the journey together. This is Imar, I'm Zare, and
Mm-hmm.
we are taking the journey together. Or I could say, this is Craig, and I am Sharon, and we are taking this journey together. Regardless of who we are, it's all about what we're doing, and what we're doing is taking the journey together. I'm going to start off while he's doing what he needs to do, or what
Because
he
I have to be the engineer at
engineer.
the same time
Yes,
on this good, nice network.
he is.
Well,
He's
makes you very, very self initiated
yes,
to make things
yes.
happen.
He is multitasking as usual. It just seems like one of those things that we end up having to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to start off while he's doing that with a another off the top of my head um, statement of our belief statement,
Mm-hmm.
which says we are going to relate. It doesn't matter what your mother, father, sister, brother, even what Jesus says, we are going to relate.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the journey together believes in guiding people to couples to relate in a balanced manner. And what we mean when we say a balanced manner is you start the relationship with your you start the relationship as friends, and you build it into a and you build it into
Mm-hmm.
a. I'm sorry, I can't hear us, and that's what was driving me crazy.
Oh well, you
Um,
just know you're
and
speaking.
I know, and you build it into a thriving. Start off as friendships, move it into lovership, and that's how you know that you are working in a balanced, thriving relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize because I got something in my head, and that just kind of threw me off completely. And so now I am back on track.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're just being too technical. You just need to
I am.
relax and just let things flow. You did
You,
this so many times.
I know.
You should be able to do it with your eyes closed,
You know
especially
what? And I
if
can.
it's in you. Then
Yes.
you should come back out.
Yes,
And really
and I can do this with my eyes.
okay.
How many times have I said that without anything to look at? Yeah,
I don't know.
too many. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that we'll be talking about some other time. Is are you creating love, or are you just going by things by compliance, being that
Yes.
which in terms of a table or archetype that tells you this is how you should relate to
Mm-hmm.
love. In this case, finding something instead of you creating that
Mm-hmm.
love, that situation with the particular person. It's just together about anyway.
Absolutely. And today we are talking about resilience in relationships, and this is the
Hmm.
second part of that one. Looks like this week looks like we're going to be just us, and the rest of our panel is not going
Yeah.
to be with us.
Hopefully
Um,
they're watching. Took
Hopefully
me a
they
little
are.
bit to get
Yes.
everything up and running a little bit,
Yes.
so hopefully they're watching. We see they're every place.
And
Should be where we want them to be. Let me check one more place. Go ahead. Don't let me stop you.
okay. And well, I just didn't want to talk over. And so, we are being resilient right now, health wise. This week
Mm-hmm.
has been,
That cold.
yes, it's been taking its toll on us.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, I had to go outside for a time when the weather was cold last Thursday when it was pretty chilly and it was
Mm-hmm.
windy. And I had to go outside for a while. And even though I was uh, covered up and thought I was covered up enough, it
Mm-hmm.
kind of attacked my sinuses and they started draining and all of that. And Friday night, I came home. I was feeling just really bad. And Saturday and Sunday, it was like you stay in bed, you rest and whatnot. So he
Mm-hmm.
ended up taking care of me on Saturday and Sunday. And Monday,
Mm-hmm.
I woke up with a fever of 100 more. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I ended up taking care of him once I came back home.
Mm-hmm.
And well, at this point, he's kind of hanging in there.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not feeling that
yeah.
well. Really, not as well
And,
as
and
I'd like.
and if those of you who watch us on a regular basis, you can probably look at him and tell that he is just really not. Um, not
trying to be resilient just by us being here instead of being in bed. But as you know, in relationships, resilience is important. You know, the bounce
Yes.
back is important. I
Yeah.
think today, many relationships, that idea of bouncing back and being resilient is not something that is reported to be something that's important, as they used to say
No.
in the old school days, where couples who were before in the past, either because of children or ideas because of church, the ideas that say that we're supposed to be together, we have to
Yeah.
be together. Those things were parameters or barriers that kept, you might as well say, forced us, good or bad. Today, where a lot of we make more money, we have more freedom or privileges, being able to drive, being able to get food. Some of us know that women are working, and some of us know that men are doing better in jobs, especially in the African American side. So we don't necessarily feel like I have to. And on one side, that's kind of good because we're able to operate more than from my have to point of view, which is, I think, more slave minded, if you
Yeah.
even say. We
Comes
can
more of
go
a
out.
want to.
Yeah, exactly. We become
Yeah.
more as if we should be, which are human. And
Mhm.
that means we have choices. And of course, choices when it comes to a relationship, especially a long term balanced relationship, you got to choose to want to be there.
Exactly.
You got to choose in such a way that you feel you should be there, not because you feel forced to, especially with all the different options that are out there. So the importance of resilience is important just because of the fact that you want to be there, then your resilience will hopefully be based on, I want to be here,
Hmm.
and
And I'm
not,
going to do what it takes to stay here.
well, yeah, and I would also say from the standpoint of not because I have to, because I want to. From that standpoint, and other people will say, well, resilience should be, but want to should not be based on resilience. It should be based on me having no struggle, me having no problems. So therefore, if I'm having no struggle, no problems, then I don't see any reason to have drop times, bad times to have to recover from. Well, if you two are that perfect, then go ahead with your bad self. But even twin flames don't even exist like that. If you know twin flames, like they don't even exist that way. In other words, no such thing as perfect. Anyway, in a relationship, you're bonding or connecting together, finding those things in common with one another, from independence to interdependence is definitely something that's important to move to in a balanced, healthy relationship. And because of that, that's going to take something that you create, something that you want to do.
Hmm.
And resilience means that many times, as you say, you got to withstand the stress and the conflict to be able to bounce back
Right.
from setbacks. And those setbacks may have nothing to do with you too. So the baggage could be carrying with you. It got everything to do with one thing in life. You know what that is? When you open up the door and you leave out of your house, your trailer, your truck, your car, whatever you may be, you got to deal with life,
Yes, you
meaning with
do.
other people.
And you never know what their issues are going to throw your way that you're going to have
Exactly.
to deal with. And
Exactly.
that can be the thing that
Mhm.
just um, basically messes up everything in your day for that at that
Mhm.
particular time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely need to focus on that.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you understand it that way, that you have to deal with other people, then the universal law that comes in, called relationship, has to be put into play. And that power of relationship is, how do you deal with that power? I call the glue that connects us all together, especially in a relationship. How do you deal with that glue? What kind of structure, what kind of ways are you dealing with to be able to connect? What we talk about is the hot principle, which is what?
Honest, open, and transparent.
Exactly, honest, open, and transparency. Well, between all of that, you still going to have that backdrop of, do you want to be honest? Do you
Hmm.
want to be open? Do you want to be transparent? Because of perfection is not going to happen.
No.
So there's another way that you can use to be able to get back on that honest, open, and transparency in your relationship. And it's called resilience.
Yes.
Again, resilience. So we've been talking about resilience last time, weren't we?
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
This is our second
second one.
second part of talking about resilience. I think I've talked so much to you tonight.
So,
Yes, it's clogging up on me, and
mhm.
I get to. It needs to become resilient so that we can get through this. But yeah, it's sounding kind of scratchy. It's not feeling
We
scratchy,
got
but it sounds like.
one friend that became a follower, somebody that we know.
Oh,
Look at, hello, how are you doing?
yes,
Miss Dion,
Dion.
we're glad to see that
Mhm.
you decided to come in and watch and see what's going on today.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So let's move into a little bit more resilience.
Hmm.
Those who are watching us locally in the Savannah, Georgia area, boy, we're going to have to be resilient after what some of us were not comfortable with how the race for the candidates, whether it was council or for the city council or the mayor in the local area of Savannah and its surrounding areas. And I know where, some of us are feeling very, how can I say it, tired out, feel like all of our
Yes.
work we did, Holly, no one really came out and voted as they
Energy
could have,
drain.
energy drain. But yet, hey, resilience is all part of life. How are we going to bounce back after conflict? Because that's part of life.
And disappointment,
Exactly,
because
exactly.
disappointment is one of those things that you really need to learn and understand how to deal with, because disappointment happens all the time.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm.
you can be disappointed in yourself, disappointed in your partner, disappointed in decisions that you make together that don't turn out the way you wanted them to. There are so many different things like that can keep you from, that can make you, put you in a position where you need to be resilient. You
Exactly.
need to touch and reach out to your resilience.
Exactly, exactly. So there are so many things that can contribute to resilience in a relationship. See what some of the things that we're going to talk about, because definitely taking the journey, we don't just bring up concerns and problems in the relationship, but we want to give you answers
Yes,
as
solutions,
exactly as counselors, excuse me, as coaches.
coaches.
We want to try to move you with directions, or in this case, strategies
Mm.
and paths that you could take to help you move in a healthy, balanced relationship. And one of them, of course, is strong one is being resilient. So, one of the things that you need to bring in a resilient relationship is a probably simple one. And when I say it, you go, "Oh, yeah," which is what?
Showing up.
Yeah, yeah. If you have an idea that and we're brought up with, hey, there should be no problems in a relationship, and if you have any problems, then you don't really have a good relationship, or you don't have a relationship at all. Then that, of course, most of
Yeah,
us know is a lie.
it
It
is.
doesn't
It is.
operate that way. And most
And
of
it
us are already in a relationship where every day ain't even happening that way. We ain't moving out of it anyway, and we
exactly.
have no solution whatsoever how to deal with it. But one of the first things that we do too much is hide from it.
Hmm.
Don't want to deal with it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Don't want to accept that it's there. And that's one of the things when people say um, there shouldn't be conflict in a relationship. First of all, you need to get them to decide what they mean by no conflict. Are there different levels? Are there different tiers, different amounts of conflict? Because there's always going to be conflict. You have conflict by yourself. You don't have to be in a relationship to
Hmm.
have conflict. It's called inner conflict or inner turmoil. You
Hmm.
get up in the morning and you have decided that you're going to wear one thing, ladies. You get up in the morning, you decide you're going to wear this particular dress, and when you look at it, it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Hmm.
Do you have time to change or not? Then you have conflict with that dress. So that conflict can be inside.
Only this lady would bring up something on the outside
But
to be concerned as a
because
conflict
because
to deal with that do it resilience.
because that's what I'm saying. Now I'm talking about the fact of conflict. Saying that you don't want to have conflict is being unreasonable to say that there's no
I,
that you don't want
I
conflict.
know that.
You
I
know.
do understand that, but that's very much an we're in conflict right too right now. But that's an outside concern.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. To bring in a balanced, healthy relationship, we have to look at the emotions and the characteristics of who we are from the inside as a
Yes.
spirit being or as a human being. from that end. I mean, we live
Absolutely.
with people and family and friends, community that many times are demonizing us. We just spoke at the beginning that many times it's not necessarily the relationship itself.
Hmm.
It will be between the two. Those important, as we talked last time, to deal with the inner conflict that has to do with your own self, where you're not feeling loving of your own self, you're not feeling cared of your own self. You're writing in the imposter syndrome that says you don't really belong here. This is not really something that you should be part
Yeah.
of.
You
And
don't
those
deserve the
parasites
things that
are
you're getting.
telling you that. So we talked about that last time, Tina.
Yes.
Remember that? Learning to be able to love yourself. But many times in relationships, it's the outside people who are demonizing you. Your family, your friends, people at your co-workers. They are the ones who are making it mess when it comes to dealing with you. We already know that when it comes to images, especially images that have to do with the area of race, that many times they're acting or giving us conflict about our own emotional well-being, our intellectual well-being, where we're being demonized, whether it's an African American male or female as being an angry black woman in a relationship or just in life itself, or your family member saying, "Why are you with that particular guy? You don't need to be with him, or you don't need to be with her." And they don't really care about you. And we really care about you more. And these people are basically, how can I say it, giving you in such a way that says you shouldn't be showing up in your relationship. How do you be resilient over that? Where you show up anyway in your relationship.
Yes.
You don't back down. You relate to that individual in that relationship. In this case, we're not talking about showing up to the family members because many times they don't care anyway
Yes.
in the first place.
And the thing of it is that was a conflict right then and there, because
Mm-hmm.
then you end up in a conflict between your parents, your family, and
Mm-hmm.
the person that you love, your partner, because you've got to you find yourself in a position where you feel like you have to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You have to decide, okay, do I stick with my family, or do I stick with him or her? Do I
Mm-hmm.
give up love for the sake of my family? When you do that, 9 times out of 10, family's gonna go on off on their own path anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be sitting there saying, "Now what? Now you got to be resilient." But you need to be resilient before you even get to that point.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. And we live with the conflict many times in a relationship where we're battling power play between one another, whether it's jealousy because she makes more money, or jealousy because of the fact that he's more flirtatious, or in
Or
terms.
jealousy just because you don't feel like
Mhm,
you deserve him or her.
mhm, mhm. And so you're battling with these demonizations. And many times you yourself, how you feel, you don't show up. Showing up in this case is you're not being authentic. You hide under a cover. I'm smiling all the time, or I'm sad all the time, or I basically will, put on that nice happy face at the job. But when I come home, I don't really want to come home, or I really don't know who you are. But so, which does happen a lot of times. I've
Yeah.
seen in my relationship where someone will be more nice and kind at their job and be more submissive at the job. Though I don't think submissive is the right word in a relationship. A balanced relationship. A balanced relationship is about both people compromising. Not compromising is the word I want to use. Um,
Oh Lord, the other C word keeps coming to my mind, and it's the wrong C
we'll
word.
get it before it's
Yes.
the end. Well, both are actually complimenting to one another,
Yes.
and agreeing with one
And that's
another
what it is.
from that particular
Yes.
end. So many times, because of that, we may be bringing home that idea that I'm not going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
I really sometimes don't even show up when we cook up, so we go to
Yeah.
a bar.
Or
I'll
you
go see
say, "I
somebody
don't have
else.
anything left to bring,"
Exactly.
which is a cop out. I don't have
Hmm.
anything else to bring.
Exactly. So I think that the showing up means that we have to be intentional about our interactions, and that's the most important thing. If you are trying to really be resilient, and you are using a strategy of being resilient, you have to intentionally want to show up. You have to be there. You want this relationship. You know it's a choice. You're trying to create this relationship. So you're going to show up. And that's hopefully and believably so with your partner too. And when you both show up, then obviously it's going to be a lot more positive within yourself, right?
Absolutely. And you also need to make it a point to check yourself.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, I don't have anything else to give, you are truly not being transparent if you don't say that to the other person. If you don't say, I have given all that I have, but then you're also not being fair to that person because you're giving it all someplace else and saving nothing for the person that you love.
Exactly. I'm thinking
So
about Will Smith. Check yourself before
before
you
you
wreck
wreck
yourself.
yourself.
That's what I'm thinking. So let's move on to the next one, which is seeing and being seen. Uh-oh. What are we talking about? Well, physically, that's what we're talking about. Sometimes that is. Sometimes in a relationship, when things are not going good, someone disappears in another room. I know some relationships where a guy, most of the time, sadly, could be stereotyped, a guy would just disappear for days and just come back. You ever been in a relationship like that where a guy would just disappear for a day and then come back?
I have not.
You've never heard it before?
Oh, I have heard it. You said
Yeah.
I've ever been in a relationship like that. I have not, fortunately. But I have not. I have heard of people leaving for days. I have heard of people finding excuses to leave for days. There was this one person that I knew who would go on, well, let me just put it the way it was. He would go out on maneuvers and come back 2 days after the maneuvers were over. And it was accidentally found out by his wife that this was happening.
Cough it out. Cough it out. Cough it out. Cough it out. Well, just showing up is not just physical. Though people could be in the same room and ain't even paying attention to each other at all, period. Hello, Latina, we miss you. I know you're feeling better and getting better. She's one of our spiritual insight person. Oh, yeah, she's also has a psychic edge that really give us some insight on those things you can't see in the spiritual side. We miss her. Definitely. You get better, dear. You get better. We're sending some spiritual blessings out to you so that we can see you around.
We miss your energy.
Yeah, we do. We really do miss your energy. So, so when we're talking about see you, not want to be you, but see you more that we want to be you. So we're talking about from the standpoint of seeing a person, like from, they call it the third eye, knowing a person for who they are. You want to find out about their judgments. You want to explore their ideas, their values, the beliefs, the conversation. You want to hold anything and everything to try to understand who they are in detail, that person of who they are. So when we are referring to, in this case, a resilient person or some tactics to take to be resilient, it's all about you trying to really know and see that person. Many of us are not trying to see that person. We're doing nothing against what you say, but we're doing no more than the outside body thing. We're not trying to get to know who they are on the inside. We're not even trying to question that because of the fact that we never came out in such a way that we were about trying to know us, find out who we were in the inside, so that we could love who we are and know where our boundaries were. So it made it almost very, how can I say it, hard for us to pass that same kind of love for self on to somebody else, which is what interconnectivity is all about.
But that also indicates that there was a love for self. And that's one of the issues too that we have to deal with when we're talking about showing up. Are you showing up with the love that you have for yourself so you can pass it on to your partner, or are you just showing up without love for yourself, and that's what you're passing on?
Yeah, wow, that's always giving me a touch into another one that we're going to talk about once we come back off the PSA commercial. But being seen means letting someone enter into your world. Being seen means I let someone into my world, and that's part of being resilient, because maybe you fell out of place with each other because you weren't allowing that person to really see you from the inside. It was mostly on the outside, and that's why you two fell apart. and you haven't really been going through the process of creating love, creating that relationship so that other person can see. I know many relationships do not operate in a balanced and healthy way. Been in them, seen them, observing where it ain't about you trying to really know me. You
Right.
just need to believe by magic. I love you so deeply that you just really don't know. Well, that's exactly what it is. I really don't know
Yeah.
because you ain't sharing nothing about you with me anyway.
That's the problem with that word deep.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what that means. When I used to do open mic,
Mm-hmm.
and at this one place they would ask for affirmations, and then when it would say, after somebody would do their poetry,
Mm-hmm.
you get the affirmation. Somebody would say, "Oh, that's so deep."
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
What does deep mean to you? And as long as you leave it as just deep, you're not being hot
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you're not being open, you're not being honest, and you're not being transparent. And the thing is, can you tell yourself what deep means?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, how you gonna think somebody else is gonna understand that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, so I am so sorry. My throat is just all of a sudden deciding that it wants
What?
to just kind of clog up on.
Well, on that particular note, because I'm trying to save something, I'm gonna go ahead and go to a commercial, which is usually earlier. So please hang on, everybody, as we go to a commercial, and we're gonna get back, and we're gonna move a little bit more into what are some of the techniques, what are the things you have to, present and practice when it comes to being resilient in a relationship. You already know in a balanced, healthy relationship we're talking about. You already know that things are not going to be perfect because it doesn't exist. You already know that you're going to run into problems. You already know that even though you want to be in this relationship, hopefully someone else is, life has it that other people you have to relate to outside of whatever demons could be in your closet too at the same time. Being resilient is important to be able to bounce back and continue in that relationship, hopefully in such a way that it's not as bad as it was before. So let's go to a commercial. Let me see if I can get here. I'm pretty sure I can since I did it 3 times before. Anyway, is this one? You want to try this one? Okay, here we go. Uh-oh. We're back again, and we're gonna share. And glad to see you back, and glad to see that you didn't disappear from us. Let's give a little bit about us, so people can see us at other places. First of all, I'm gonna get a shout out to our channel here. You want to tell
YouTube and Roku TV.
Mm-hmm.
Like and subscribe it. Subscribe to it. This is where your Facebook. It's on your
Excuse me.
Facebook page. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm kind of off today. So go to YouTube and Roku TV. Like and subscribe it. You also can. What is it called when they cash app it? What is that
No, I'll
called?
put it right here. There you go.
Okay. Donate. That's
Yes.
the word. All $ all things relevant on
Mhm.
Cash App, and that way you can support and donate.
You can't put a donut in the mail.
It's donate.
You said donut. I heard you slip a donut.
Oops, I guess that's what I'm thinking
Yeah,
about. Yes.
I guess so.
No, but seriously,
Mhm.
use the Cash App, $ all things relevant,
Mhm.
and donate. It doesn't matter if it's $5,
Mhm.
5 cents, $500, $5,000.
I forgot.
All of that.
Where can they find us? Other places.
We can be found every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. on WRUU radio station, where we're also talking about
Been under the longest.
healthy, thriving relationships. Absolutely.
Yeah, been under the longest.
WRUU.org.
Yep.
And you can find our archived ones.
Oh wow, sorry.
That's okay. You can find our archives at rebrand.ly/ttjt WRUU.
We
But the
have.
important thing is 9 to 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings on WRUU 107.5.
Exactly.
107.5.
The information we give, I heard a pastor said one time that we were on the show, you could be asking for a whole bunch of money as other counselors and coaches do with the nuggets of information that you give to really help a relationship out, but you're giving it away free. So take advantage of it, especially if you go to our archives. There's so many things that we've talked about in elements to make your marriage or your long-term relationship balanced and healthy for the last 3 or 4 years. And so we'd love to have you be able to go back and then pull that out, as a pastor have said, and make that as for being your freezer in the archive. You may have to open up, and I guarantee if you listen to it, you will get something out of it to be able to take with you, won't you?
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, we didn't say where we could find
What's that?
us at Taking the Journey Together.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yes, www.takingthejourney-together, and that's our website. We also
have
have
an email. Where is that?
We have an email.
They can email us if they have any concerns. I don't know what that's.
And we have Instagram. And
I don't know why. Is that up there? Oh, there's the email address. Okay.
Taking the Journey Together. The email is ttjt@takingthejourney-together.com. Facebook, you can find us at TTJ Together, and Instagram is Taking the J Together. Taking the J Together.
Exactly, not the joint, folks. It's the J. It's going to make you high enough to have you at least not just tolerate, but to really love and want to be in that relationship.
Absolutely.
Not in a fantasy way.
No, very realistic and desirable.
Though creating fantasies, as you did many times when you first were related to one another, it's just as important, especially during mundane times where we have many Cialis moments. But you could do something
when the weather
that
gets
is
cold and you can't
fantasy,
go outside.
and you could create things that are exciting with one another through games, through TV shows, going back to old memory things, or just bringing cards or doing things like that to make that relationship exciting during a mundane time, instead of just acting like you two don't exist in the same room and just going from one exciting time to another, and everything between you, like, I don't know who he was. From that end.
Because even now it's so that lot of them don't even have dinner together.
Mm-mm.
They don't have a cup of coffee together in the morning. They can leave at the same time and not even stop to have a cup of coffee with one another,
Mm-mm.
or start their day at the same time. For those people who work from home, you
Exactly.
know, it's a very deep separation.
Hey, look, Miss Latita, she even when she's out and she's around, she still has something good to say, which was, are you sure? Why don't you read that? Yeah.
Are you showing up? I don't see you because I don't see me. Ooh, we deep. You're not being hot. I love her little the way she goes in on things like that. And yeah, that's the thing. If you don't see yourself, you don't see anybody else. That when you said that,
Mm-hmm.
that was so right on target.
Yeah.
And then there are those people who can't see somebody else for seeing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Neither one of them are right. You're in
Mm-hmm.
a relationship together, so you need to see and experience each other equally.
Mm-hmm.
I see me as much as I see you, and vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can share in that. But yeah, that is, she was right on target
and
with
and
what she
and,
was
and
saying.
what a way to be able to expand your relationship
Mm,
when both of you are trying to know each other that much more
yes,
and creating new ground, creating new adventures, even mundane ones, so that you are able to be able to know each other even that much more. I know one of the things that we have with many of our programs and shows, especially African American shows. We don't have enough African American shows that
we never
show
have.
balanced relationships where it's all about us knowing each other in a positive way. And the ones that do show are more dramatic and like soap operas. And
Yeah,
they basically are not very positive, not very uplifting. And when it does something that's very passionate, it really presents mostly pain and anger
yes,
and not comfort, not uplift and joy or humor or something positive or inquisitive or exploration wise. It doesn't really show any of that, sadly, when it comes to reflection of us. So we're thinking a relationship, it ain't gonna happen in our types of relationships. So I might as well not even think about that, which is really, really too bad. Really too bad. So let's look at the next one, which is what? What's our next one that we get ready to talk about?
sharing power.
Which is one of the things that you talked about.
Yes, sharing power
Mm-hmm.
means practicing equality and refraining from domination or control.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Here's one that,
yes.
of course, I should the first time. Ah, wrong one too. So sharing power is what again?
Sharing power. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
is the wrong thing right there. What I was just saying. Um, sharing,
You can still keep
sharing.
going.
Well,
I said you can go. I'll get it here real
I
soon.
know, I know. Sharing power means that basically you are doing things together and not
Mm-hmm.
one person being more in control than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that is very important.
Mm-hmm.
The operative word is sharing, and
Exactly.
being able to allow and feel, or I guess I should say comfortably allow your partner
Mm-hmm.
to have as much of a say in a decision as you. And
Mm-hmm.
there are some people who it needs to be their way. And if it's not
Mm-hmm.
their way, then there's something wrong. And if you don't see it their way, then there's something wrong with you. And that's not sharing power. That
Mm-hmm.
is, we can share power as long as it's done my way.
Yes.
No bookable there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And sharing power, we make space for each other. When everyone has space, when everyone has a voice, we build a solid foundation of
Mm-hmm.
resilience. Build a solid foundation of resilience when conflict arises.
One of the hardest things that we do doing that sharing power, especially when we believe we are right,
Yes.
it can be hard to think about the consequences of the ways that we use power in this particular case, sharing power. I'm not trying to bring it down this, but also keeping it real too. We know
And you
that
have
in many
to.
relationships, I know I heard the old saying, "Do you want to be right? Or do you want a relationship? When I used to hear that, I did not really understand that whatsoever. I thought, well, yeah, I'm in a relationship. I want that relationship. So is that not right enough? That meant many times in a relationship, we figured in our relationship, we have to always be right. Otherwise, we don't have a relationship.
Yes.
That is not going to happen. Sharing power means sometimes, even when you're right, you could be wrong.
Yes. Yes.
Because you want that relationship more than you feeling that you got to be right all the time.
Even if you feel like you're the one that has to be wrong all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it bad enough, then suck it up. Know within yourself that, okay, I'm right, but it's not enough. It's not a major enough situation, life or death, or anything like that, for me to have to prove I'm right.
Well, use that old saying, is it the lesser of two evils?
Yes.
For that particular end. I think the important thing for us to do is that sharing power can be extremely hard, especially for us who have been granted a lot of privilege.
Yeah.
Some of us come into a relationship where we basically come from a higher level financially wise relationship where we're being used to getting what we want. Okay, so we feel privileged. The other person may have come from a lower end in life, and so therefore they don't necessarily feel that way. And the person that in turn feels more privileged says, you are supposed to be doing things my way, and I don't really have to do things your way.
Right.
And I've been taught that automatically that power should go to me, and I should always be right. But a resilient relationship can only happen if everybody is equally sits at the table
and has that same ability to be right or wrong.
Exactly.
And sometimes you have to even think to yourself, okay, last time I was right. This time you're right. You're absolutely right. You don't talk this out in out loud. You have to do this within yourself. You have to make sure within yourself that you can rise to the level of, this is what I want.
Take the higher road.
Exactly. There you go. Take the higher road. I want this relationship. So, I don't have to be right this time. I was right last time. Or I was wrong last time. Okay. And I'm used to it. I'll be wrong again.
And sometimes when we talk about bridge statement, which we talked about bridge statements before, you may want to go back into our archives to find out what bridge statements are. You will find that sometimes you may have to open it out loud. Showing up is what we're referring to. One of the showing up is all about you saying, well, I was right last time. I went ahead and went out of my way to take the trash out. So this particular time, can you? Okay. So I'm doing a light one. I know that it could be deeper. It could be deeper than that.
If you can do that with the light ones, which is in fact true, people will get locked into power plays on things as simple as who takes out the trash and who does the dishes. If you don't figure it out on the small things, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to figure it out on the more difficult things. Right?
Yeah. Yep. That will very, very happen. and sadly, when you're in power play relationships, it was always
who's going to be right.
Exactly. We live, especially in a lot of African American relationships, we live with the power play in our relationship. Who's going to be right? Who's going to be right? We're mostly competitive with one another, not trying to be a team with one another, not trying to have that balanced, healthy relationship. But if you're trying to partner, if you're trying to build, then you're going to have to look at things in a comprehensive way.
Absolutely.
For both of you to know that the power agreement is looking at what are our different skills we have and how can they be placed into the equation to be able to build on what we're trying to build. That's the important thing, and I think that's what we should do. In fact, I know that's what we should do in a balanced, healthy relationship.
Now, I want you to look at this and think about this, because this is something that just popped in my mind. And we both know that sometimes when things just pop in my mind, then one has to want to be. On another note, energy transference. Now You have a light cough, brother. Y'all sync it up. That's so true. So
Yeah.
true. I want you to I want you to think about this because when things pop into my mind, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they're right on target, and sometimes they're so far off target, the target hasn't even been set up.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I was thinking about: a way to stop people from being, in that power play. I got to be right. I got to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want to be right this time.
Mm-hmm.
Have a deck of cards,
Mm.
and the cards all say, "I'm right" or "I'm wrong."
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in that conflict,
Mm-hmm.
each person in the relationship
Mm-hmm.
draw a card, and whoever gets the "I'm right" card, they're automatically right. Whoever gets the "I'm wrong" card,
Mm-hmm.
they're automatically wrong. Agree to that,
Mm-hmm.
and you just don't have to deal with it anymore of carrying out that argument.
Okay. I can't necessarily say agree to that.
Well,
That's what you just came up with.
No, that's what I'm saying. It just popped into my head. So, what do you think about that?
Like I said, I can't necessarily say agree.
Mhm.
I'd have to think about that for a little bit
Okay.
and see if we can find a compromise in that particular matter, or see how complimented, whatever it
How
is.
it complements.
Yeah, but and that's only because of the fact I'm trying to still engineer at the same time.
I understand.
But that leads us to the next one too, since we got a couple of minutes left. You know what it is? Disagreeing well.
Are you good at disagreeing?
Can you disagree without being disagreeable?
Uh-oh.
I think again we grow up in such a way that when the idea of in a relationship, if it's a right one, it's a good one, or if it's anyone,
Yeah.
then we should never have conflict. We should never have conflict.
Never.
We should always, in turn, have agreements. And if we always have agreements all the time, there is never, excuse me,
Never,
that's
ever.
nasty.
And
We would never have a time where somebody does that on the show in real life.
But
and
it's
mhm.
life, and it's live. It's a live show,
Yeah.
and you have to do what you have to do. And if we can't deal with that, then
Well, I
there's a
mean,
problem.
think about it. We live in a country, we live in a society that's basically based on image, and the image that's pushed is not a reality. Even the reality shows are scripted.
Yes.
You'll never be in
yes.
similar situations that show up in a reality show.
But
And I mean, how many times can people really have a camera in somebody's place? And then the people who are in turn you're videotaping are going to actually feel comfortable enough while you're around them in the camera to stop
Exactly.
being themselves.
exactly.
That's literally impossible. So
But
on
one
that
thing you
particular
can
end,
say about this is you are being honest.
mm-hmm.
You're open, honest, and transparent in what's going on because you've got a throat issue, you've got a sinus issue.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like, okay, I'm going to just sit here and deal with it and pretend that I am fine and healthy and everything is all right. No, let's talk about the reality here. The reality here is that's not quite the case.
Mm-hmm.
So no, we're good. We are definitely good.
I just stopped it to type something. We got a question up here. Let's check and see what that question is.
Yes.
Who is it? Okay.
No.
Oh no, that's Letita. She said that before. She talked about our coffee.
That's Araya
Oh,
Scott.
there's Mrs.
Hi,
Ryan Scott.
glad you're with us. Very
Yeah.
glad you're with us. I read the word miss someplace else. I'm sorry.
Yes.
But yes, glad you're with us. And I love it when you check in.
Wow. Hey, we just got through getting word from our sponsor. No, excuse me, from our engineer. And the person, well, actually, I'm the engineer, but the person that's over the whole thing. Thank you, Julius. He says we can go to 7:30. So,
Wow.
let's go to 7:30. Keep your fingers up, keep your toes crossed, and keep your eyes looking forward. We're still going for a flight. Must be something very, very good we're talking about. I think when it comes to resilience, wow, we need that today. We definitely need that. How are we going to be resilient in today's climate where everything's about being polarized, everything is about being opposite? And I didn't even know how relationships were staying in relationships today at a high level.
I want to stop you for just a minute. Letita, we just got an extra 30 minutes. And so what that says is we know that things that you're not 100%, but you have been throwing in, you've still been with us. And so if you can still spare us another 30 minutes, we would love to have your tidbits dropped in. We definitely would. it.
Exactly. And now she said that too. So
Yes.
we expect no less. I was hoping Dr. Frazier to be around too. So,
Yes.
so let's go into disagreement.
Okay.
Okay, relationships are also resilient if you have the ability to what? Disagree.
Yeah.
Go
Oh
ahead. Go
gosh.
ahead.
Yes.
Do a little bit more. Look up our notes. Yeah.
You can
Go ahead.
hold the weight of conflict and impasse. Instead of running away from disagreement, we must learn the art of healthy disagreement.
Can you
Healthy.
believe you can have healthy disagreement?
Disagreement.
That has everything to do with where you have to believe that in a relationship you're going to disagree.
Yeah.
We do not have too many belief systems, shows, and images that says disagreement is going to be in a relationship. And if it is, we're going to act like it should have never been existing there. You lied to me. It was something that in turn has been falsely deployed. And we were supposed to, have that marriage that goes over the cuckoo's nest, excuse me,
And
over
it's
the
already
moon.
there.
And we're supposed to never have had any problems. So if we're disagreeing, I don't know how to handle it, and I'm just going to totally fall apart.
Yeah. And if
Or have a fight and beat you up, one of the two.
Yeah.
I'll get beaten up.
But either one of those is just like what you said, jokingly.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship has gone over the cuckoo's nest.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to stop it before it gets there. You want to be able to learn how to disagree without it going over the cuckoo's nest.
Exactly. You are definitely, she's saying something to do. You are definitely, I guess what we just said that at the
that was
to.
a little before that.
Oh, okay.
When I was saying that you're,
if drugs were allowed,
so stick with us. Well, you know what?
As long as the drugs are not too bad, I mean, for that, and if you got to do some of that J stuff just to keep you going, that's what the country has for us in some parts of the country to help shadow that pain. Then go and do what you got to do.
But so far, the drugs have been holding it down. The ancestors have been keeping everything at bay because you have been definitely giving us your spirit feel.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's go back to what we were referring to. What is disagreeing well? We seem to want to avoid that. We don't want to avoid that. What is disagreeing well?
After showing up,
mm-hmm.
seeing and being seen,
mm-hmm.
and after sharing power,
mm-hmm.
that we engage each other in tough issues in ways that make us stronger together.
Are we talking about the old adage that you heard before, using tough love? Is that what you're referring to?
Sometimes, but I don't know that it's necessarily tough love at this particular point. Mm-hmm. But it's the issues that are tough. Issues that you may not want to deal with, the ones you've been avoiding. That would be
what tough love is.
Tough love is
the issue. Tough love is the issues that are at hand that are tough. How you handle those tough issues are always supposed to operate in love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore, there will be different ways of how you handle that situation in love. If in turn it's a situation that you keep on putting your hand in front of the fire, and you keep on thinking to yourself, I'm not going to burn, it's extreme.
Yes.
Then that's a tough thing, because you keep on in turn seeing your partner's hand and it's burnt from that end. You're going to have to say something tough to that person. Stop. Don't do that. You may have to grab him at the same time. That individual might think you're being pretty tough on me. How dare you grab me? Give me my space.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So in this case, tough love has to do always with the situation that you're handling. Yes. So of course, it's how you handle it.
Yes.
You may have to handle the situation a little bit different. I remember one time you said to me, you can't treat your kids always, when I was talking about tough love, the same way. And I went, well, that's tough love. You gotta handle it. But yet, what you were trying to say is you have to deal with your child or your children appropriately, how they are, how they relate to the world, how they in turn, how can I say it, emotionally can handle and listen to information and knowledge. they're individually different like everybody else, and that's so is your mate.
Yes.
So some mates, I mean, we're just going to be honest with you. Some of our mates are just hard headed.
Yes.
They ain't gonna. But anyway, they're not gonna listen to
No,
anything
never that.
at all. No, maybe it's me. And so sometimes you can be soft spoken, like you try to be, and it may not move me at all. Sometimes you're gonna have to be a lot more forceful, a lot more assertive. I don't want to say you want to slap me around, but
Never.
I might like it. No, I'll be joking. But you may have to be a little bit more assertive, more forceful in your tone of voice to get me to listen to you. You understand what I'm saying?
Definitely. And I definitely see what you're saying. I was stuck on the issues part. Things like one of the partners is spending too much money. And it's a chronic thing, and but you kind of overlook it. You know, it'll stop. Okay, well, we're not in dire straits financially, so it's okay. We can kind of handle that until you get to the point where a piano was bought without any thought to it, other than okay, we're gonna have the money to pay. And so. And that's a tough issue. You're going to have to discuss that.
Well, think about a situation in your relationship, because we've both been married before. You were married for 30 years. I was married for 16 years. So this is our second marriage, folks. They said second time around's a chime. Second time around. Must be feeling better. So think of a situation in your first relationship or this relationship where it was a financial situation. A large financial situation, which is usually the setup, where it was disagreeable in the financial decision in the first place, and what made it even worse was nothing really was said until it was over. In our relationships, we could actually think about that. Think about what yours coming. Give us an example, just
an example. In an example in my last relationship, because we really don't have a lot of issues now in spending money that was that's not agreed upon. But in my past relationship, there was a house that was bought that was agreed upon. What was not agreed upon was that at one particular time when I had to be gone for a couple of months, that the mortgage would not be paid.
The whole mortgage rent's not being paid.
Yes.
What a stereotype you see all the time.
The mortgage wasn't paid. And then when the mortgage was paid, the mortgage company decided, well, you're this amount of months behind, and so no, you're gonna have to pay that overage in order to get back on track. And at that point, that was the first I had heard of the fact that it wasn't paid. That was one of those things that we did not disagree on.
Well, let me ask you something, because I look about it in this relationship where a lot of times you allow me to do most of the financial decisions, and I do let you know obviously about it, but you usually let me, as some folks say, pull the trigger from that end. And I appreciate that. That's part of a balanced relationship. Did you get involved with a lot? Meaning, did you show up and asking about the bills? Did you show up and ask questions? Because we're gonna talk a little bit more that when it comes to disagreements, one of the things that you have to do is you have to work like an archaeologist. You got to carefully dig in and find the meaning and the nuances, handling anything with great care and detail. And a lot of us in our relationships, we pretty much slough it off. Either we have the old adage that someone from the old school is, that man is supposed to save me and take care of me, so he'll take care of my bills and he'll handle all of the financial stuff, and I don't have to worry about it until if he passes away, then I know what's going to happen. Or if he shenanigans, takes the money and does something I don't know anything about it, I'm not paying it. then I'm, shit out of luck, as they say from
Yeah.
that end. Should we not, when we're talking about in the area of resilience, should we not have been in that relationship in such a way where we always have been, carefully being involved, wanting to know what's
Mhm.
going on in the complexities that are involved with someone's view and what they think,
Yes.
especially when we're not talking about, for example, the financial area in the first place in the relationship,
Absolutely.
instead of waiting on the end, like some people say, where the house is on fire and then you're trying to run around and put it out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the way. That's the ideal way.
Well,
That's
that would be the balanced way.
that would definitely be the
That's the
balanced and
healthy way.
ideal
You
way.
call it idea.
Yeah.
It's the healthy way in a
Mhm.
relationship.
Yes.
And this is the I mean, I hate to use the ideal way. I like to think of it as being a balanced and healthy way.
Mhm.
And being healthy is not ideal. Being healthy is natural.
Yes.
Is part of life that we should want to be
And
as human beings. To be honest with
exactly. And I can agree with you on that. I can
Mhm.
agree with you 100%
you,
on that.
that's where we
But
should be
here's
rising.
here's absolutely.
Mhm.
But when you don't have that in front of you,
Mhm.
whereas you go into a relationship understanding about healthy, balanced relationships, you go into a relationship muddling through.
Yeah,
You- you muddle all the way
under
through.
the social dynamics that we talked about, where you have a program tape, socially wise, that say, I call it archive wise, not archive but arcade, where that man is supposed to take care of me. He's supposed to do what it needs for me to be able to operate and live. I know, and we know that there's some relationship where there's some young guys. I'm not saying all who are living with women who women will take care of them, and they're doing the same thing. She's supposed to pay the bill. She's supposed to do this. She's supposed to do that. They're very unhealthy relationships. So therefore, when something's fall apart, she's got to take care of it. I don't have to worry about it. Or she'll complain about, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And so I'm just referring to the fact that if we're looking at resilience as we should be, as for the piece that is missing in a relationship for it to operate in a balanced and healthy way, then we have to understand that one of the things that we do that's part of disagreement, because that's going to happen, is that we should have ongoing been careful in digging and finding out information and getting to know that person and what they're doing and what they're saying that they can do in that relationship. We're talking about the financial wise. We know it should be more financially wise. So therefore, you're able to, I don't say necessarily stay on top of it, but maybe you might be there to help that person.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They may have a hard time and really paying bills, but just act like they're good at doing it. Well, they may not be doing it at all.
Exactly.
But just putting on a front because of pride. Of, I can handle this because I'm a man,
Mhm.
and ain't operating like that. Or being a woman, I can handle this as a woman, and ain't even operating that. What's your thought about that?
I see both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that, as you were talking, what came to me was the idea of, when I was talking about muddling through, and you started up with going along with that. The other side to that is when two people are together and neither of them have grown up in an example of a healthy thriving relationship, don't know anything about a healthy thriving relationship, they are going to stumble through everything unless they start learning how to distribute well. They start learning how to be resilient. They start learning how to share things,
True.
share control and everything. But something is going to have to be the trigger to get them to that spot.
One, that's true. And sadly to say, in life, we operate from trigger to trigger, high point to high point. When in a balanced relationship, we are
unfortunately low point to low point.
Yeah, exactly. In a balanced, healthy relationship, we are to be operating in all the situations at that higher level, and make it so that mundane is still living and being in the present.
Exactly.
And so asking questions is all part of living every day in that relationship. And no one said you should be asking questions in such a way where you will try to be more critical to tear a person
Right.
apart. But it could be asking questions about trying to get to know who that person is, understand who they are.
Yes. And listening is a big part of that. Because if you're going to ask questions to find out who your partner is, then you've got to listen to their answer. And instead of telling them what they're saying, ask them again if it's what they're saying. What questions we got another time?
Okay, let's get another question up here. We'd love to have it when people have questions, so please don't be afraid to ask questions. Put it up here. David Banner, he's saying, I'm watching. We're glad to see that you're watching. Hey, don't be afraid to ask any questions. There's no questions that's stupid. There's no question that doesn't make any sense. We're all about wanting to hear you ask questions so we can help you out. And this is a continual hour that we went to usually till 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But those who are run the controls behind us so we can go to 7:30. So we're going to try to make it all the way to 7:30.
Yes.
But one thing when it comes to relationship,
we
operate more than just hours at a time in a relationship. We operate days and days and days and months and years at a time.
Yes.
So it's important that we are able to operate at that high level and not be afraid to do that. So banishing shame is the next thing I'm thinking about on our list.
Yes.
What are we talking about when it comes to banishing shame, when it comes to disagreeing?
We let ourselves make mistakes and change our minds without shame. We further reduce anxiety and animosity. When there is shame placed in everything, you have a level of anxiety when you make a mistake. You find yourself not wanting to admit the mistake. You find yourself wanting to downplay the mistake if you do admit it, and it's because you get this sense of anxiety, and you start feeling, I can't make a mistake. If I make a mistake, then I'm going to be less than. I'm going to be ridiculed. It's not an easy thing. So if you banish shame, you remove or reduce that anxiety and the animosity that comes on the other side.
Now, I'm going to be the Nixon advocate in this because we had another program that we talked about how shame will bring regret, and regret will move us into being more compassionate and empathetic. Remember that? Because we were talking about, in this case, how can you go through the process of feeling someone, loving someone, or being empathetic? Remember, it's called caring. So how do we deal with the fact when we look at what you just said, banishing shame, and yet at the same time saying, well, shame brings regret, and regret can actually change someone and move them to be empathetic. Is this a opposite dichotomy between one another, or is it so perplexing that we really just can't understand it? Because I know a lot of people today are all about, hey, there ain't no shame in my game. And therefore, when it comes to me being empathetic or caring towards you or anyone else, I ain't even thinking about it. Don't even think that you can shame me. And we live in a society right now where shame ain't even part of the game or the life that is even entered in. And people are doing shameless stuff.
Oh yeah.
If you ask me. So let me ask you, how do you place shame in ours to you? You pretty much figure, shame is to be blamed, and therefore let's get rid of it totally.
I think there is a place for shame.
Okay.
I don't think shame can necessarily be placed upon somebody. If it's a situation that I would feel shameful in, then that's me and how I look at things. I can express to somebody how I feel and how ashamed I am of them, but placing them in a position where I'm saying, I feel shame, so you should feel shame, and something is wrong with you if you don't feel shame, because I would feel shame this way. I think that's somewhat unrealistic to expect them to go with it. But more than anything, I think what this is talking about banishing shame or reducing the anxiety and everything, I think it has more to do with how often you're placed in the blame game or the shame game. How if it's from time to time somebody can say something to you and let you know how you're coming off, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I am so sorry. I'm ashamed of myself for that. That's one thing. But then to do it constantly and expect that same result, I think that is where the anxiety and the animosity comes in.
Well, I will say something that has to do, especially with ancestral African American background. I mean, many times our mamas and our grandmothers and our aunts shamed us into being straight. Talk about scared straight. I know many times where I was doing some things out there that I should be doing. I hated when it came to Thanksgiving time. I hated when it come to
Mhm.
family gatherings, and I was hungry, and I had to go into that kitchen or through that living room, and all them aunts and sisters were there. Woo! I knew the energy was like, I'm going to be shamed big time as I walk through that living room just to get to that kitchen to get something to eat. And I knew that that was what I'd have to deal with
But the
if I
thing,
wanted to get something to eat.
mhm,
And before I got there, I felt like every pot shot you could think of
mhm,
was hit at me. Some of y'all brothers out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Before I got in the kitchen, if I made it walk strongly like a strong stone rock guy, but by the time I got there, my arms were broken, my head was cracked, and I was barely making it into the kitchen. And I knew some of my cousins and stuff. They're like, "Man, I ain't going in there. I'm going to the back door, or I'm going to ask somebody to go get me something to eat from there. I ain't even dare going in there whatsoever. I know what I got to head for." So, I mean, I think shame sometimes is a very good way of bringing people and moving into empathy. I don't know about today because people ain't got no shame in the game whatsoever,
and
and they're shameless from that end. But I think shame sometimes is a good way to be used, especially since we talked about before. Shame is another way to present empathy,
I
caring
can,
about someone else more than just yourself.
right, I can understand that, and I can go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
But as it says in our notes, no one likes to operate in the gotcha environment. You know,
I didn't like walking in
except
that
for extreme
living room, but I
circumstances.
needed some food.
But that was an extreme circumstance. Consider that it's much more effective to leave shame at the door. Focus on calling in, educating, not calling out, shaming or embarrassing. And I think you're right. A lot of people have come through that role of public shame, public humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a
Sometimes you
difference.
need it. If you're openly being
Absolutely.
public about your lack of shame,
Yeah.
sometimes you're going to need that public shame to bring you down a couple of
Yeah.
notches. And hopefully, the down a couple of notches is going to have you
You're
be
right.
not so nauseous. And have you be
Exactly.
a lot more empathetic towards
Yeah. And
people
there's
in your own self.
there is
Because
definitely.
sometimes you are a figment in your own damn mind.
Mhm. Yes.
And you think you all that, and really
And
you're
you're
not. No, you may think that you are God or a goddess, but yet you got no divinity in how you actually
Yes.
relate towards other people. None at all. Period.
Yeah. And
Very
I
self-centered.
I really believe that there is a place
Mm-hmm.
for you to bring somebody down a notch. I think there is. I mean, we do it with our kids all the time. What were you thinking? Stand here and talk to me about what you just did.
Mm-hmm.
We do that to our kids. Think about what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel about it? And that I can go with completely. And I'm not just saying for your children. I'm saying even in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying that can lead to the anxiety is when you feel like you're being, the situation is being created and crafted so that you can be in that position.
Well, I think you're referring to the individual too. You
Yes.
made me lose one of my
I'm
thoughts
sorry.
too, but that's all right. Because sometimes it has to do with the individual. The individual means, as we talked about before, some people, excuse me, oh my God, some people are a lot more sensitive.
Yes.
So they already might be operating in empathy, not enough empathy for themselves, or maybe too much empathy for themselves, or feeling more like a victim. And therefore, if you shame them much more, it sends them more into depression.
Yes.
It sends them more into oppression,
Mhm.
and
And more
their
into,
self awareness gets, confidence gets even much
yes,
lower. And some
and
people are
also
like that.
send them more into denial.
Exactly. And so the level of shaming, because it's back to love,
Mhm.
in this case, tough love. We were talking about the situation as a
Yes.
person, what's appropriate in connection to that person. And so if you're in resilience and you're trying to going through the fact of questioning, getting to know that person, you're going to know if that person is more sensitive, and therefore you should treat them more sensitive in that matter. And your shaming shouldn't be so hard and so cold that in turn you make them feel guilty about themselves when they can't even get out from that end. And so I think it's that individual shaming that has to do with the person that you're dealing with. I
Yes.
don't think it should be banished totally. It has everything to do with the individual you're
No,
dealing with.
I agree with that, and I don't think it should be banished at all. But
Mm-hmm.
what I do think is it should be in moderation. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
every situation should be a situation of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Some situations should be you need to check yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what were you thinking, and how did you get to the point that you thought this was okay?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily you ought to be ashamed of yourself for walking out that door when you did. But I was angry.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Within reason.
I think the key thing here is we talked about before, if we go back in our archives, we talked about caring.
Mhm.
That caring has everything to do with empathy, meaning caring about more than just yourself.
Yes.
And that embarrassing or shaming people has everything to do with that person doesn't have much empathy
Mhm.
for other people, let alone
Right.
themselves.
Right.
And in a balanced, healthy relationship, empathy for that other person in the relationship is vitally important.
Yes, it is.
It's a foundation that's very important. You
Mhm.
can't be interconnected between one another. You can't be operating in a unit in such a way where you're not empathetic
Right.
and trying to find out that other person in such a way, which is the very process of being empathetic
Mhm.
in the first place.
Yes. But
Knowing that person,
indicating
getting to know that person.
exactly, but indicating to that person
Hmm.
that they should be ashamed all the time is
That's the wrong.
is not
That
being
that that
empathetic.
that would be wrong,
Yes.
because that person will never have a chance to gain the kind of confidence in such a way that says, "Ooh, you are seeing me having empathy for you."
Mhm.
And that my empathy for you is because my love that I have, I'm going for myself, is being reflecting, as Latita said, back to myself and going back
Yes.
to you. Because in
Yes.
a balanced relationship, it is an ebb and a flow.
Absolutely.
It is an ebb and a flow. And you two are mirrors with one another.
Mhm.
So that empathy should go both ways. And sometimes you have to remind each other about being empathetic to one another.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to be reminding one another that we need to be empathetic to one another. We are trying to create this relationship together as one. If you're in that one
Mhm.
thing, or between the two, of course, and so that is very important. And so we need to many times check ourselves to make sure that we are being empathetic to one
I
another.
agree.
That's the only reason why I'm staying emphasis on
Mhm.
that,
Yes.
and thinking that important, because it's from the end of empathy brings out, opens up that door of allowing us to know one another,
Yes.
to care about one another, to love one another. And if in turn, agreeing with you, if you're too embarrassed to love yourself, then you can feel uncomfortable. You're too embarrassed to love that other particular
Yes.
person. And therefore, you don't have a good ebb and flow in that relationship.
Right.
Let's hope that you move in a balanced way where there's not much embarrassing between one another.
Mhm.
You could sometimes look at, sometimes we do playful embarrassing.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would be an example of playful embarrassing?
Playful embarrassing is when you make a slight little mistake, and then somebody says,
There's Bernard. Well, hello, Bernard. Good to
yes,
see you, my friend.
and you are in luck tonight because we're on an extra 30 minutes.
Exactly.
So glad you could join us. So playful
Embarrassment.
embarrassment
I
is
can think of one between you and me.
okay. Go for it.
Wow.
'Cause
When we first met each other
oh
in Denver,
gosh, yes.
and we were going up to the only what was it, glacier in all of America, St.
Yes, St.
Mary's.
Mary's Glacier.
And you decided to come with me, and like, I'm gonna go with this black guy to climb to the top
I
of
didn't
this
decide to go
mountain.
with you. You invited me, and
Exactly. Exactly.
I'll pass
And
this
most
on.
people are like, nah, we ain't doing that. We ain't going no glacier. It's not all what you think. We had to wear no big boots. We had to put no spikes on. We had to worry about, yodel lily hoo and all that other stuff to get there. It was a heck of a walk. I have to admit
Oh, it
that.
was.
But when we got there and parked where we needed to park, we opened up the back of the trunk, and you pulled out the shoes you were going to wear. You want me to tell the rest of the story? Or you going to do it?
So he walked over to see if we were close enough to the path that we would take up. And so I said, great. I had on sandals. I said, I'm going to put on my gym shoes. I had pulled my shoes out of my car and put them in his car because I was leaving my car down in Denver with my daughters so she could get around for the day. She'd have transportation for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just grabbed the shoes and threw them in there, didn't pay attention to them, didn't look at them or anything. So when I got them out and got ready to put them on, I put one of them on,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got the other one out, got ready to put it on, and it didn't fit.
Mm-mm.
The reason it
Don't
didn't fit,
then you must quit.
I know if it doesn't fit, you better put it back in the car
Okay.
and figure out something else. Because I had two pairs of white gym shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I generally do not have is two pairs of white shoes of any kind. I had two pairs of white
You
gym
can
shoes.
tell she don't want to be embarrassed.
No, I was. It was funny. It was the funniest thing. And so in this at this particular time, he's walking back, and I'm realizing I had picked up the same shoe, one from each of the pair, and it was the same shoe for the same foot. They were both the shoes for my right
she
foot.
put them on the ground. I took a look.
I put one on.
And to me, it was like, I'm a test to see if this black woman can really laugh at herself. Because most sisters I dated at that particular time, they would not laugh at. They laugh at me, maybe. Me be their entertainer or the clown. And homie really didn't play it anyway. But I didn't think, man, I'm going to check her out and see if she really could be human at this time. Because it was funny. It was funny.
When I did it and I realized what had happened, I had already decided by the time you came back that we were going to walk up that mountain. I didn't care if I broke my sandals or what. We were going to go up there because you had told me so much about it. I wanted to experience it.
So what'd you do?
And so I told him, I said, guess what? I said, I have two shoes for the same foot.
Well, I mean, I saw it, so it was no guess what about it. I think the main important thing is that you looked at me, and for a second, you wanted to see if I was going to give you a look of the kind of shame and embarrassment that said you as a human being was worthless for not having shoes, or if it was going to be a healthy embarrassment that was embarrassing, funny embarrassing.
It was going to be a determining factor one way or the other.
Exactly.
Because I had been in a situation
Pocket
where if I made a slight mistake, then I was stupid. If I made a slight mistake, then it was the end of the world. If I made a slight mistake, you get the picture.
In other words, the shaming wasn't based on them trying to present empathy to you from them.
Right.
They were basically showing you no empathy towards you and saying in so many words, there's nothing that's really empathetic about you or caring about you that I should connect with.
Exactly.
That's what you were saying.
I later found out through some, my healing process and stuff, that was not about me. That was about him and how he felt
your
about
first relationship.
Yes. And so I was like, okay, either this man is going to let me be silly and goofy and do some things that are just kind of ridiculous and off the wall, because I do them a lot. And we will, and we'll laugh about it. We'll find a plan B and we'll make this thing work. Or he's going to get angry and we're going to get back in the car and go back.
It'll be a bad red flag. Yes. One thing is for sure, after that, we have had times where there's been that, and then there's some red flags that came up that has shut that door many times. But that has a lot to do with the fact that if you don't know and understand what resilience is and bringing in the disagreement, but disagreeing well and presenting this particular case, that area of shame that's healthy, that doesn't say at the end, I'm not trying to be empathetic to you. I'm just saying, can you laugh at yourself?
Yeah.
Because you don't take yourself that serious in life, knowing full well that you don't have to take yourself that serious in life as much as you shouldn't either.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Love does that. So,
It
and we're
does.
still working on that because sometimes I can be a pretty serious person
Yes.
about
And
things.
sometimes I can be real goofy.
Yeah, but not goofy enough many times. Because remember, we'll be talking about that later on how you create a relationship,
Yes.
not something that in turn is based on, how can I say it, past archaic belief systems of how relationships should be. We talked about before that a man should run the relationship and a woman just comes along for the ride. So therefore, the limitations are she can't do what I want her to do, or she can't do what I say she can do, or vice versa.
Or she has to follow what she can only follow the path that I've laid out for her.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm,
And here's the path that we have laid out now,
mm-hmm.
and that's the path of time.
Where are we at?
We were gifted with another 30 minutes, and we have used about 27 of those minutes.
Oh wow, I didn't even
so
see it. Time has passed when we were having fun. Wow.
I know. And I got energized as we moved on into it because I was feeling tired and scratchy in the throat when we first started. So I want to thank everybody for allowing us to be hot and real as we were going through this and sticking with us and listening to us and what we had to say.
And be with us next time because our next one that has to do with relationships or resilience in the relationship, we're going to talk about how this builds up into sharpening us. That's right. A balanced, healthy relationship helps us become more sharpened. Yes, we want exercise to be healthy, to be more sharpened, to be more clear. To help us build, to help us be able to enjoy the adventures of life. Where in your relationship, you should want that same thing too. You have a right to that same thing in your relationship. No matter how old you are, you have that right to be able to do it.
Right.
So these things that we're presenting, these kind of elements we're presenting, these kind of tactics, whatever you may want to say we're presenting, is going to help you be more sharp in your relationship in your older age. And you're in your younger age too at the same time. So stick with us when we come back around again, and make sure that you share with your friends, your mates, and to your enemies. But no, so,
and don't forget to refresh between now and next Thursday, and go back and listen to this again. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, definitely. Well, until next time, all we can say is make sure that you live a resilient life, because life is all about changing. Make sure at the same time, you know that in life that you can always, always overcome and come back again and live healthy, because life is like a ocean. It has waves that go up and down and cycles, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And make sure you continue to take this journey together.
Yes, Ashe and amen. Ah, here it is.
I like that.